Obviously, a lot of people are counting the cost of what's going on, and the ONS figures, putting it in context now, it's a real hit to the economy.
It is. Let's just remind viewers of the rail strike action that's actually happening. I think we've got a graphic here that we can show everybody. There's a rail strike on the 13th of December. That's today, of course. Tomorrow, the 14th. Then again on the 16th and the 17th mark. And, of course, the strikes mean there's disruption the following day, so the 15th will be, to all intents and purposes, it will feel like a strike day because there will be disruption. Then there are no trains after 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, which is pretty tough if you're trying to get home for Christmas, to paraphrase Chris Rea. And then on the 25th and the 26th, ordinarily there are very few trains on Christmas Day and Boxing Day anyway. And then to welcome us into the new year, you've got the 3rd and the 4th, and again the 6th and the 7th, so the 5th too, there will be lots of disruption. So RMT boss Mick Lynch, he was sort of pushing back against a lot of our colleagues in journalism this morning, denying that the union is targeting Christmas. I think if you look at those days, viewers and listeners can make up their own mind whether or not the RMT is targeting
And let's not forget, from the 18th onwards, an overtime ban as well, where many of these train services can only run when people come in on their days off or doing extra hours.
That's right.
That's going to have a hit as well.
We've had two COVID-impacted Christmases. Last year, of course, Christmas wasn't cancelled, but a lot of people were very worried. There was test and trace and so on. And then the year before, of course, Christmas was during lockdown. So this is the first COVID-free Christmas for 3 years, effectively. And a lot of people will have trouble getting home to see relatives and so on. And it's not just that, it's the impact on hospitality. You know, we know, Mark, this time, the couple of weeks in the run-up to Christmas, it's a time when the hospitality industry, pubs, restaurants, they really make a lot of the cash that sees them through the quieter months of January, February and March. And, you know, in London, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, Belfast, a lot of our bigger cities where so many people live and work, because there are train strikes, they won't be able to get home after those work functions, so they'll just be cancelled.
And this feeds through into then a lack of spending in the economy, which, you know, good news for inflation, but it means a lot of those sectors that need this golden quarter, as it's called, to actually fill the coffers. But just looking at another statistic that came out from the ONS, and this is on pay, and they pointed out the disparity between public sector and private sector pay. Private pay up 6.9% in the 3 months to October, but for the public sector, only 2.7%. So one wonders if the unions representing NHS workers do have a bit of a point.
OK, I often talk about this.
Indeed.
Yes, it's true that private sector pay, on average, is going up faster than public sector pay. That's the rate of change, though there are a lot more very low-paid people in the private sector than the public sector. But, Mark, the actual level, the average wage that you get in the public sector is higher than in the private sector, and it has been for some time. Now, over recent years, because private sector pay has been growing more rapidly than public sector pay, that gap has shrunk, but it is still the case that average public sector pay is higher than average private sector pay. And then on top of that, many people working in the private sector get better sick leave, better holiday entitlement, more flexibility. They often have very, very attractive pensions that aren't available for people.
Final service pensions,
final salary pensions. That new employees in the public sector, they tend to have average salary. It's slightly different.
Right. Now, last question. What's this going to do for Thursday when we've got the Bank of England to decide on interest rates? I'm just reading what Kitty Usher, chief economist at the IOD, Institute of Directors...
Ex-Labour minister, ex-Labour Treasury.
But the trade union for bosses, if you like. Basically saying, look, unemployment's starting to tick up. Time for the Bank of England to pause for thought on how they go with interest rate policy.
I think Kitty's a very knowledgeable person. I think the IOD, they're trying to get ahead of the argument here. I do think, and I said to you, I think yesterday, if not the day before, that I don't think the Bank of England will go for a 75 basis point, three-quarters of a percent increase. I think it will be a 0.5% increase. I think that's what we may see from the US Federal Reserve tomorrow as well. When the inflation number, the UK inflation number, comes out tomorrow, I do think it will be a little bit less than the 11.1% in October. The November number comes out tomorrow. So I think there is a sense, if only because the economy's slowing down, that there will be less inflation. That means the Bank of England doesn't have to go in so hard with that anti-inflation medicine.
Yeah, OK, and that will have an effect, of course, on maybe those negotiations on pay with the various unions.
Certainly will.